This is Charlotte Market Buzz, your daily news source for all things real estate in the Charlotte market. Sometimes we talk a little North Carolina, sometimes we talk a little South Carolina, sometimes we talk about the whole nation real estate wise, but we do talk about real estate and mostly in the Charlotte metro region. Got a few interesting things to talk about today. Had an interesting home sell, and if you have any knowledge of the Charlotte, just like inside the Charlotte, loop, or anything about Plaza Midwood, Elizabeth area, there was a very prominent house that if you have been around that area, you know what we're talking about. And it is the Barnhart Kramer Mansion at Maymont Place. So here's the deal. It hit the market. So it was recently sold for 3.75 million. It was listed for 5.75 million, and it was purchased. So if you look at the picture here, and I'm sorry, I got a little distracted with it. So this is the property. And if you knew the property before all of these, all this work happened around it, it's been there for a while. It's not been in bad shape, but you can tell that there have been some renovations done to the exterior, and I'm sure the interior. But what's happened around it is new construction. And which is kind of a darn shame, but it is just the way that progress happens. And at some point, we're going to talk about Charlotte and their city planning. But this home's been renovated. It's beautiful, but it has, it's been around for a long time. I love light fixtures. I love lighting. It is the thing that kind of just fuels my passion for housing. And I also like any house that has, I'm sorry, this is an ad, has used a hippopotamus to stage in a home. I'm good with that. So this is the seller was the owner and president of Grandfather Homes. And I don't know if you've seen any Grandfather Homes, but I'm going to tell you they're gorgeous. And they bought this property a while back and did the renovations on it. And then a lawyer bought it. The managing partner of a law firm purchased the property. And, this is just another, and this is just another little bit of maybe the word progress is not what I would use, but, I think that the preservation of our homes in this area is so important. Now, this house sat on 15 acres, and you can tell what's happened to the other 14.5 acres of this property. And I imagine Grandfather Homes are all the way around it. But, I am a big fan of these historic homes, even ones that are not technically on the Register of Deeds historical, but homes that have been, in our lives, whether we're driving past it or we've, ever been in those properties. It's good for these properties to be preserved. So in that respect, I am very, very happy that this home has had such a beautiful renovation. I haven't gotten to the kitchen, and that was one thing I wanted to take a look at. But I will have to say that as a general rule, Charlotte gets a D- for preserving our neighborhoods. There's a neighborhood in Charlotte called Cherry. And Cherry traditionally was a neighborhood of what you would call mill houses. And mill houses are, they're similar to what you would see in New Orleans, the shotgun houses, where, you got a front door and a back door that are opposite each other and rooms on each side, long and thin homes. Cherry has traditionally, or was traditionally, an African-American neighborhood of folks that worked in the factories and mills around the center of the city that we now know as Uptown Charlotte. Cherry has been completely decimated, and it is not even close to a resemblance of what it once was. There are a few homes still in Cherry that were indicative of almost every house in Cherry, but Cherry has been overrun by new construction. And I absolutely give Charlotte a D minus or maybe an F for preserving some of these neighborhoods. Oh, sure, we'll preserve Queens Road with the $1 million homes on each side. But when it comes to these smaller, less significantly priced homes and these smaller ethnic communities that we have, there's nothing there. And I hate to see that property in Plaza Midwood be turned into new construction. And yes, we all need housing here, but you've taken that 15 acres and jammed as many houses as you could get on there. And I have a serious problem with that. You can call me anything you want. I don't care, because I do like for cities to have some character. And, if this continues, Elizabeth, that has been overrun by apartment complexes, and Plaza Midwood, same, are in Cherry's mostly gone now because it's mostly all new construction. These neighborhoods are rapidly disappearing, and it is unfortunate. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on in that part of the world. I have an aunt and uncle that live in Elizabeth that have lived there since I was in elementary school. And so I have a very intimate look at these neighborhoods, and especially Elizabeth. And I like the character of Greenway Avenue. I don't want to see a bunch of new construction, even though that's exactly what has happened on that street. So just my rant for the day. A couple of other things that I think that you'll be interested in, local, just local things. And this kind of goes a little bit into what we were just talking about. City leaders unveil 14 community area plans and seek public input to guide neighborhood growth. Now, this community plan, and I'm going to pull that up this week and take a look at it, and we'll probably talk about it later. But there's a detailed vision for different segments of the city, offering guidance on development, infrastructure, and land use in alignment with Charlotte's 2040 comprehensive plan. Okay, so this is the community area planning, and these are the areas where there are plans that the city wants to use to shape growth and development. I am happy that this has become an area of conversation for the city. It is long overdue. And I would really like to see what they're doing here with these plans. So I'm going to dig into this. I just kind of wanted to bring it to your attention today. But, what I hope does not happen is we get this stuff like 14 community reports, and we get recommendations, and then we get nothing else. So we'll just see what happens with that. But up to this point, Charlotte has not been great with taking care of community development. I can tell you there was an apartment complex that went in on Monroe Road in kind of the 28212 area. And part of the approval was they were to keep the large trees on the property. They clear cut everything and then took the fine. And frankly, it wasn't a significant fine. And I think that I know that our county commissioners walk a fine line between, the development in the county and maintaining some sort of resemblance of the area and the neighborhood. But I don't enjoy looking at an area of the city that was once one thing and has turned into a bunch of, $1.2 million single family homes that you can touch if you do this. I'm not a fan. I think it causes a lot of problems environmentally. And I think in my old age, I have become a hippie because I like to see the character and the smaller homes that are in Elizabeth, Plaza Midwood, that area. Oakmore, these are not areas that I think are protected enough by our city. So let's take a look at that plan at some point. I will sit down and dig into it and see if it's actually something or if it's much ado about nothing and just a money drain. Because let me tell you, our just government in general, I think we've figured out is a money drain. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to talk about that I think you're going to be interested in, and that's the city planning stuff. Sorry, I'm going to get X out of that. I have something about Kannapolis, and this may take me a second to locate, but let me see. I'll just open it up again. Kannapolis is seeing explosive growth. How much more can it handle? All right. So this is something that we have to kind of take a look at. Not sure if you can see that because I can't see that on my little screen. All right, let's try this one more time. I think my computer doesn't like me very much today. All right, here we go. I hope you can see this because now I can. All right. Kannapolis is seeing explosive growth. How much more can it handle? This came out last week on April 23rd. And here's the thing. I don't know if you've been to Kannapolis, but if you haven't, you need to go. It is the city planning there. They've done an extraordinary job with developing that downtown and bringing things. The minor league baseball team is right there. It is such a good little town to be involved in. Great shops, lots of local stuff there that I've just been really, really happy to see. But here's what's happened. There's a developer that has come to the planning commission and asked to build 324 townhomes, and the city has denied the rezoning request. Now, the proposal is going to go before the city council in May because they're going to try to pressure the city council to approve this because of new housing demands. And yes, it used to be in Kannapolis, I could find anybody a home for under $200,000 in Kannapolis. Those days are gone. But the city's been growing a lot, and there are more than 6,000 residential units currently pending approval, and half of them slated to be multifamily apartments. Okay. Here's the problem. They are having issues with sewer. And this is not something that any of us want to have problems with, but there is a capacity issue that they're having with sewer. And the problem is that they cannot just allow all of these new developments without some sort of plan for what they're doing for their sewage capacity. Now, they're working on it, and this article talks about that a little bit, but they are holding back the reins, it appears, in Kannapolis on those just releasing and allowing all of this growth to occur because, let's face it, Not everybody, you got to be able to have sewage capacity. So anyway, so if you haven't been to Kannapolis, I'm going to recommend you. I just recommend that you do it. So here's the deal. I have a client that is moving here from New York. And New York has a lot of different, that's just a different state to work in. Attorneys kind of run the transaction. There's a lot of regulation about inspections and that sort of thing. And in North and South Carolina, it is not there. There are rules for inspectors to follow and guidelines, and they have to, you know, they have to come up with, something that, I'm sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought. I'm getting a bunch of text messages. So when it comes to home inspections, all of our home inspectors are licensed. There is a licensing board in North Carolina and South Carolina. And actually, I've heard that South Carolina licensing situation is a little bit harder, just according to some of the inspectors that I've known and talked to. But when we hire a home inspector, that home inspector is going in to look at sort of the big picture stuff. They're looking for functionality. They're making sure that the systems in the home are working as they should. Okay. So we're talking about roof, electrical, plumbing, structural, HVAC. Okay. They look at windows and doors. They're going to look at appliances, although personal property appliances generally are not tested. They're going to make sure water runs appropriately and drains appropriately. They're going to look at the temperature of the hot water coming out of the hot water heater. This time of year, they're going to check the AC unless it's cool, but anything above 50 degrees is good for the AC to run. They're going to turn the heat on. If it's gas heat, they're going to make sure that those gas burners are going. This is all the stuff that they do. Now, that home inspection is for that day. If something breaks tomorrow, that's why we do a walkthrough. And that's something that works, that's why we have that walkthrough, because we have to make sure that home is it's the same condition at the time of the closing at the walkthrough than it was at the time of the showing and the home inspection. So let's say that tomorrow the air conditioning breaks. It is the responsibility of the seller to fix it prior to closing, but it's also the responsibility of the buyer to check everything on the day of walkthrough. And if things are not in their condition that they should be, they're not functioning properly, you gotta hold up closing or do something to work through that. So now, one thing that I want to talk about with home inspections is this: home inspectors are not the code police. Okay. You're not going to see home inspectors in North and South Carolina talk about this is not code. Okay. Now, if you got some happy homeowner that's put a deck on the back of the house and it's sitting on the ground, that does not, and it hasn't been inspected by the town or whatever, that is something, because that deck is sitting directly on the ground, that's going to come up in the home inspection, but they're not going to talk about the code requirements. Okay. The code requirements they're just not, that's not something they talk about. Now, most homes need to have GFCIs, but if you're looking at a house built in the 50s, that's original. And we do have, every now and then, one will pop up. Okay. And there's not been any renovations to the house. That house has wiring from the 50s, and a GFCI outlet was not part of it. Now, that homeowner may have put in GFCI outlets at some point, but if it's completely 100% original, chances are that's not happened. So just be aware of that fact. So if you're moving here from another part of the country, our home inspectors are not going to talk code. Our home inspectors also, even though many of them have a construction background, They are not going to be, they're not HVAC inspectors. They're not electricians. They're not plumbers. They're not structural engineers. They are here to give you sort of a bird's eye look of how things are working today. And if there are things that are not working, they're going to say, seek professional in, seek an electrician, seek a plumber, seek a roof inspector or a roofer, a structural engineer if there's settlement. I've seen some homes where the homes were built in the 30s and 40s. There weren't enough piers under the house to handle the load of all the junk we put in our house today. And it actually was causing roofing problems. So, not only did we have to get a structural engineer out, we had to get a roofer, and we kind of put all this together. So expect to pay for more than a home inspection. Now, look, if the house is 5 years old or 4 years old, I would expect you to have a very light home inspection. And I would expect there not to be a lot. But here's the thing. That home inspection is there to find the scary stuff. Okay. It's going to be nitpicky. Okay. In a lot of cases. But what you want to find is stuff that you don't see. Okay. I have a client a few years ago that bought a house where the sinks were completely clogged and there was no drainage. Now, when we were looking at that house, did we walk around and turn all the water in the bathrooms? No, we did not. And this is a client that would not get a home inspection. Didn't want one, figured out that house was okay. And there was nothing I could say or do to get that client to hire an inspector. And the water drainage issue popped up after this buyer moved into that house. This is the home inspection piece. The home inspection piece is there to find the things that scare us. Okay. And if we don't find anything scary, it's great. I've seen new construction homes with a furnace that looked like it literally got dropped off the back of the house or the truck. Like it was, instead of it being square, it was like triangular. It had clearly fallen off something and it was installed and it wasn't working properly. So whether you're buying a new construction home or you're buying a resale home, I absolutely recommend a home inspection for you. And then pay attention to that inspection report. If it says seek a structural engineer, seek an electrician, whatever it says to do next, you do it. Spend the money now so that you know exactly what you're buying. Because remember what I talked about last week, North Carolina is a caveat emptor state. It is a buyer beware, and it is your job to inspect any and all. And once you purchase that house, whether you're in North Carolina or South Carolina, any of those problems become yours. So talk to your agent about home inspections. Do not assume that a seller will fix something, okay? And do not assume that that home inspection is the only inspection you're going to do. I warn my clients that you need to check on these things. I also, especially if I have a client that's buying a home with a basement, or have a client that's buying a home that has little children, I always recommend a radon inspection. I recommend one anyway, but for those people, those particular demographics, I absolutely recommend it. And that's just how I operate. So I hope that all inspections go easy and the homes that you're buying are in good shape and there's not a lot. There's always going to be some things. And you could get 5 different inspectors to inspect the same house and you'll get 5 different reports. Not seriously different, but every inspector looks at things a little bit different. But what you are doing that inspection for is not for them to confirm to you that it's a good house. It is for them to find the things that frighten us. So as you are going through your home buying process. This is something that I would recommend that you just pay attention to. And one other thing, if you're a seller and we're in a slower market, it might be a good idea for you to take a look at the possibility of going ahead and getting a preemptive home inspection report. You know, the more information you can give us a buyer about your home, the less concern they have. And your job is to make your home feel like it's safe. And we have a lot of buyers that operate remotely. I have buyers right now in Florida and I have buyers in New York, both of which this week are going to be doing FaceTime or Zoom calls to see a house. But we cannot, I'm not a home inspector. I'm not a structural engineer. I can see things, I can point things out. But if you're a seller and you're competing, there's a lot of homes in your neighborhood that have been on the market a while. What can you do as a seller to make your home more enticing to a buyer? Making sure there's a floor plan, not just the drawing, like the appraisal drawing of your house with the square footage. Do a floor plan with room sizes, inspection report with the repairs that you've done. A list of all the great things about your neighborhood. Like, there's so many things that you could provide a buyer in the MLS through your agent that could give buyers the warm and fuzzies about your home. You're going to have to go the extra mile a little bit because we have a little bit of a softer market right now, and you're competing against other sellers. So your home needs to stand out. All right. I am going to go. I got to go do a walkthrough for a house in Waxhaw this morning, and I'm going to go. But if you want to talk about real estate, you can always reach me at 704-617-0847. If you would like to be included on my email distribution, I send out a weekly update of everything that we talked about that week and what's going on over the weekend. You can find me at charlottemarketbuzz.com, CharlotteMarketBuzz.com. And I will see you tomorrow at 9:30. I hope you have a great day and stay away from 485. It's closed around Matthews until what I heard earlier was noon. There's a gas leak. All right. Have fun. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye.